All right, we are recording this time. So I had a problem. My microphone wasn't on, so we'll get this. So let's review real quickly what I did. We're going to talk about checkboxes and radio buttons today. And so I added a form field to my form for a checkbox, and I named it newsletter. And this is what it looks like on the screen. Checkbox with it, send me a newsletter. And the name is the key value in my post array of how I get that data out. So I need to check in the post array for the value of newsletter. And the isSet checks to see if there was something in there or not. Now HTML either sends you a value or it doesn't send you a value. So you either get something associated with newsletter, which is actually the string on, or you get nothing. You don't get anything in the newsletter value. So I can use this as a Boolean expression and just say my newsletter either was checked or not. So newsletter is going to hold a Boolean value. And then I print it out. If that Boolean value was true, I'm going to say that you're going to receive my newsletter. All right? So that's where we are. Let's just show that on the page again. So if I say send me a newsletter and say post, it's printing out you will receive a newsletter. If I send it without that being selected, I don't get that value. So there's no checkbox selected. And we were just starting on stickiness. So I want this value to retain its value, whatever they chose, whether it was selected or not. And I need to do that in the form based on what this value is. All right, since this is a Boolean, I can do some Boolean stuff inside here, right? So how would I make this checkbox checked? All right, I would say checked equals, let's see, checked equals checked. That would be a normal HTML size, attribute. So if I just come into the page by itself, it's always going to be checked. And I can uncheck it to post it. But I want that to be variable. So this string is either there or not. All right? So I can then set, the easiest way would be to set a variable to be called checked. All right? So let's cut this out and replace it with a variable we're going to call checked. And up here, if they selected the newsletter, I can add something to my if statement here and set my variable checked equals the string, which is this value. And why am I using single quotes? Because I have double quotes in the string, so that the single quotes won't conflict with my double quotes. So now my value, my checked string value, has something in it. So let's run this now. And come and just reload the page to start with. So right now checked is blank, so it's not putting a checkbox here. If I post this with a checkbox, it comes back and it's checked. It's sticky now. Yes, sir. Down here? Yeah. This one? What about it? You mean this one? There is, it's a double quote and a double quote here. Is that what you mean? Yes, okay, yes. Another one.
Newsletters, Boolean, true or false. Why not just reference newsletter? So you'd say checked equals newsletter.
Well,
true or false.
it's going to say checked equals 1 then. And in HTML parlance, the attribute should be checked equals checked. The string checked, not the string 1. Does that make sense? It worked in Ruby. That's because Ruby did the work for you. It filled in. If you looked at the source code, this is what it would have printed out. All right, so I have this value. Now, now when I post it, my checkbox stays there. If I uncheck it, post goes away. But I have this problem. All right, I have a warning that my variable checked is not defined. It's only defined if this is true, right? So how would I get rid of that warning? Set it, right? So I can just set it here, set it here. Checked equals nothing. And that's that's my style of coding. I could also do it like an else, but I think that's a lot more wordy. I could say, if they didn't do anything, I could say checked equals an empty string. But I like to set it to a blank, and then if this is true, it's going to reset it to another string. If this is false, it's going to leave it as a blank. So that's my style of coding. All right, any other questions on that? All right, so that should fix this problem of posting without. See, look at that. Is that beautiful? It's beautiful, man. And there's lots of things to test. Just loading the page without posting the form with the box unselected, and posting the form with it selected. I've got 3 different tests here to test that one element. And typically, beginning people don't test all those cases. There's 3 cases there, at least. Yes?
When you click the ask a question button or whatever you make it, do you want all the information you entered into that form to go to a separate page to be displayed?
I don't remember what I said in my assignment. I don't think I said anything.
You took it out of the original assignment instead of redisplay it?
Yeah, I took it out. So you don't have to redisplay the data. It just has to become sticky. So if I put Dave here and ask the question, it's going to redisplay the form. You're never going to actually submit and do something else yet. We'll change this form later to take the data and send an email. But does that make sense? Okay. So you don't need to do what I'm doing here. I'm just doing that as an example. All right, for my testing. So another nice way, while we're on that subject, is it would be nice if I just printed out all the values that are in the post array. I can see everything that gets posted, and there's a nice way to do that. I can call echo or print. Let's see. Let's put it. This is good enough. Echo. The result of calling this print R method. That means print a whole object. And I could print the value of this entire array in one statement. And let's see what comes out, okay? So if I post something, now I'm getting this entire array. It tells me everything that's in here. Dave has, first name is Dave. Newsletter is on. Question is submit. Question actually is nothing. Submit has ask a question. Okay. So it's a quick and dirty way to see some data. I wouldn't do this in production, obviously, but it's a quick way to see everything that gets into the post array, so I can make sure if what's coming through. That helps you debug some things. All right. So I might put that around some a div with some nice inline styling. Solid blue, because I like blue. Huh? Picky, picky, picky. and we're going to append what this method returns a string. So I'm going to append the closing div. And now it'll be a nice blue. See, RubyMine even tells me what color it is here. Isn't that nice? Because I said solid blue. And let's see if this works. Parse error. Let's see. So I don't have a quote here. And that's okay. That should be right. Correct? So now it didn't work right. That's interesting. Why not?
Would it matter that you've got single parentheses around one div and double around the other?
No.
Not parentheses closed.
No.
Okay, well, here's the question then. Would it matter if you have the single quotes inside that div right there?
No.
Look at the source.
Yeah. So when in doubt, go look at the source. And we come down to, here's my stuff. And that's strange. I think the print R is actually doing a print by itself. I don't know. That's a good question. Seems like I just did this. Shouldn't matter, but let's see what happens. Okay, that worked. That fixed it. All right, so the problem was print R is actually printing out to the screen differently. It's not returning a string. So print R is, if I look up this value, it's returning a Boolean, right? So I need to go look at the PHP documentation. Print R. And it's doing its own printing inside of that method. So it's returning a value instead of returning a string. All right? So that's just another way to look at my data. I can see it all inside, see everything that gets submitted. So any questions on what we've done so far? All right, radio buttons. Let's do a radio button. So radio buttons are a little different. Let's put them above my text area again. A radio button has a type of radio button, right? Radio. And it has a name, and we're going to call this gender, because I don't want to do all your homework for you. And we're going to say, how about if I want to have two different radio buttons that are related to each other. So when I click on one, it unchecks the other one. I click on female, it unchecks the male, etc. So it's all based on the name, right? The name value has to be the same on both input boxes. So this is the same. The value is different, though. The value that gets sent when they post the form is different. And I'm going to put male and female. I don't think there's any other genders, right? So we have two. Yeah, it should be female, not value. There we go. That's right. So we've got two different values, but the name is identical. Because we only want one piece of data to be sent to the backend server at a time. So how would I get this data out of the post? How do I get this particular value out? post subgender, right? It's an array, and I index it by the name again. So we'll come back up here. We'll say gender is what we want to create. So we might do something similar to this. If is set, do something. So we're going to say if is set, instead of first name, we're going to look at the gender value. And that's going to be stuffed into this variable if it's set. So what will this gender value hold? The value, which is a string of male or female, right? All right. So I could print out somewhere down here, I could say echo you are a gender, just to see what it looks like. All right. So let's go test that out. Reload my form. And notice when I just went to the page, the array has nothing in it because I never did a post. I never did a submission on this form. So now I've got a male or female. If I select nothing, what do I get back? Well, I didn't get anything back in the array. They didn't choose anything at all, right? So that's useless. If I select male and ask a question, I'm going to get back subgender is the string male. And female should be female, all right? So that's all working. If I choose one or the other, it unchecks the other one. That's because the name field, the name attribute of the radio button is identical. That's why that does that. All right? So I can have 10 radio buttons, all with the same name, and all having different values, and I'm going to get whatever they select back, one of those 10 options. All right? Any questions on that so far? So how do I have an undefined variable gender, so I should fix that gender error. It's only set if that post value is set. So I need to do the same thing like I did for question. And this is going to be, am I still recording? Good. Gender. And that'll fix that error. All right, good. So how do I make it sticky now? I need to do something in the HTML. Let's say I want to make it, I'm going to have the same kind of thing, checked equals checked. If I want gender to always be selected, I would say checked equals checked. All right, let's just see if that HTML works. So I ask a question, it always comes in as male. Ask a question, always comes in as male. Go to the page, always comes in as male. All right, so obviously that's a hard-coded thing. We don't want that. So we want to do something similar to this newsletter. So we want to display a string, and we'll call it something different. We can't call it just checked. We have to call it what? Gender checked. All right? Well, can't be gender. It's going to have to be male. Very good. See, you were way ahead of me. Male checked, and this is going to be female checked. You can use that against me now. So I have two strings that have to be filled in, and they're either going to be in nothing, an empty string, or the checked equals checked value. So again, up here, I'm going to do something based on that value of gender. So I could do something here. I could say, let's set my two values to be nothing to start with. Male checked equals nothing. Female checked equals nothing. And then I'm going to check my value of what gets submitted in the form, which is what? It was gender. So if if gender equals what? Male, the string male. Then I want to do something. I want to set male checked, mailed checked, to be equal to this value here. Same thing. Else, I'm going to set female checked to be equal to this. All right? Now, what will this do? What side effect of my if statement is there now? Do you see a side effect of what I've done? By default, female checked will always be set. If you don't choose anything, you're going to be female. So I don't know if that's good or bad. It depends on your radio buttons. But let's go and run this. Now I select male, comes through as male. I select female, comes through as female. Go back to male, comes through as male. Everything is fine. If I go straight to the form, though, my default is female. So do you want a default there or not? It depends on how your rest of your program is set up. Radio buttons usually have a default. You usually have something. And so gender's a tough one, though. Newsletter, I would probably select as being checked all the time. Yeah, it just depends on your website. So gender's a tough one. So how would I fix that to not have anything checked if they come to the page? Okay, so I say else if gender equals female. Then I want to do something. Otherwise, they're both going to be empty, and that'll fix that problem. Not too bad. So, but the problem is if I post this now, I don't get anything back for male or female. They did not choose to select a gender, which might be good. Who knows? So if I choose male, now I'm stuck, and I'm going to have a stickiness. I can't unselect something. Once I've selected something, I'm stuck here. All right? So stickiness takes over. All right? Any questions on all that? Isn't that fun? Huh? All right. So I've made my forms sticky. I've talked about how we can make some of them required. I just need to add some more if statements if I want to do some things that are required. So I think we've covered everything you need for the assignment. A select box is going to be the same thing, a little more difficult, but if there's no challenge, why program, right? You guys have to do something for yourself. I wrote your whole program for you right here. Anything else? Any questions on any of this? Come on, got to be some question.
We're all pros. Okay.
You're all pros? Okay, good. I'm glad. All right, so let's, we got a few more minutes. I want to talk a little bit about moving some of this stuff maybe into a function. And something like my errors, I could make this into a function instead and print out this value and make this into a method or a function that's going to happen. All right, so one nice thing about PHP Storm is that it has a refactor thing. It says refactor this, so I selected my paragraph of code, and I can say refactor this into a method. All right, and the method name, I'm going to call it print error. And the parameters are going to be the errors that come in. It figured that out based on the only variable in this block of code is errors, right? So I say, okay. And what it did was it made a function out of this and put it right here in the code, which I'm not going to leave it there, and it made a function call to this. Isn't that sweet? So this function now works like I call print error, and it's going to echo out the value of whatever I pass in as a string inside of my little div here. All right, so this makes a nice reusable piece of code that I can have on multiple pages. So now all I need to do is cut this out and put it where? Into a functions folder. Okay, I'm already including header, but let's start a new file, a new PHP file. We'll call it common functions.php. So here we go. I'm going to put my function in here, paste that, and I don't like the way this formats it. Let's see if it will. Well, not quite. I like these up here. Anyway, so this is a nice little function. How do I get that function to be available inside of my contact us page? I need to require it, right? So I just need to require that page. You could do it anywhere you want. If I wanted that function on every single page, I'd put it in the header. If I didn't, if I'm only going to include it on some pages, then I'm going to put it in its own include. So I'm going to say common. Yeah, that's where I put it. Functions.php. So I'm going to require that. And let's make sure my program still works and prints out the errors. Oops. So let's just ask a question. You must enter a name. Isn't that great? Still does it. Everything is all happy. But now I have this method that I can use in any of my pages. Everybody understand the concept of methods? I'm passing something in. I'm getting something out. Lots of ways to write those. It's a method or a function or a procedure, depending on what language you're in. We call them functions in PHP, typically. Any questions on that? Isn't that nice of PHP Storm to do that for us? I think that's pretty cool. All right, I think that's it. Any questions for today? More questions?